Garrett, do you mind giving us a quick update? You're probably much more informed than I am. I was out there yesterday, but I kind of rely on you to give us all the details.
It looks like he had popped out.
Okay.
He was on here a second ago, but we were unable to hear him, so he may be trying to get his audio to work. So you want to go ahead, Jim?
Yeah. So basically, we're looking at the Berm project as kind of two smaller projects now, where we're trying to finish the gravel and beach work, but we're also working on the flat work, which is another slang term for the concrete work, and all the accesses and some of the curbing and some of the finish work, which is lagging a little bit behind the gravel work so that they are not right on top of each other. So right now, from my understanding, they have pretty much almost, I think Garrett may correct me on this, but I think they're almost done, if not completed, with all the gravel placement. And if they have a little bit left to go, I think they have all the gravel hauled in now and will finish it on site. And then that is through Cedar Lane and up there north of Cottonwood. And so that would be our terminus on the north end of the project. And then on the flat work and the concrete work, they're just right at Harborview, pouring some curbing and planters in that area. I was out there yesterday, and that is coming right along. They were pouring concrete and finishing it. And then there'll still be some, material having to go into those planters, some amended soils and some things like that, and finishing up that work. And I think there may be a few more accesses to do. And that's what I know. And then, one other thing I would say is a coordination between Granite and Interwest Construction would be the Harborview project has an outfall coming down, coming through the berm for Harborview drainage, coming off of the Harborview project that the county's undertaking there, which is some improvements up Harborview to Birch Bay Linden Road, between Birch Bay Drive and Birch Bay Linden Road. And so we knew about that in advance, and but we felt that there's going to be some gravel that is removed to put the outfall in, but it won't be wasted. It'll be just reused. But we were careful not to do any concrete or flat work in that area that would have to be redone. So that will happen January 11th, I think, in the nights where they put that pipe in. It's probably maybe 1 day, maybe 2 days. We're hoping they can do it in 1 day. And because Granite's kind of set the mark for that kind of work, they can show what can be done on that. And they've done a lot of those outfalls in 1 day, but it's not really fair to another contractor to say, hey, you don't get any practice, you just got to go out and do it. So Interwest is going to try to get that in 1 night on Monday night, but if not, they'll follow it up on Tuesday the 12th. So I think that's kind of a summary of where I think the berm's at. Any questions?
I think Garrett hops back on. Is he on here?
He is. Can you hear us now, Garrett? Can we hear you?
Yeah, he must be having trouble. See, Roland hopped on too. Morning, Roland.
Good morning, everyone. One thing I wanted to mention about the outfalls, there are some straps that are holding the outfalls down. We're taking a look at those, making sure that that they're safe. We had a couple of people call and talk and question whether or not they were installed to where people might cut their leg if they happen to be walking near them or anything like that. Those are being reviewed right now, and the engineers working on reviewing that. We may add some things to it or move those straps around. So I just want to let everyone know that we are addressing that concern, and that'll likely happen through the year. We might not even be able to get to it till the summer, but that is being reviewed.
Roland? Can I just say that we looked at that and, you know, it's going to be tough to take those straps off now. And like Roland was indicating, it may be something that we do whenever they need replaced, that we replace them with softer and more appropriate straps. I think you guys are going to see that the thrust of some of this, there's been a number of requests from the community for additional features. And I just would like to politely say that we see the finish line here. I don't think it's going to be our desire to start putting a lot of flux into the project and complicating things and increasing the cost of the project by addressing a lot of added issues. If I, you know, again, most respectfully submitted, but I don't see these straps as a hazard to that they're jumping off of the pipe and slashing people as they walk by. I see that people are going to have to control their children and you know, keep them away from areas that, you know, that they're not going to be able to crawl around on these pipes and slip in, you know, and try to make, you know, and get like, you know, ride a pipe or something to the end or something like that. You're going to have to be careful. So there's inherent issues all over the project that, you know, I mean, there's nothing dangerous on this project. I think that just people have to be watchful and mindful.
I have a question, and there's a cement pad down at the south end of the berm, and what is going to go on there? I think it might.
Is it a bench pad? I think it's the bench pad, isn't it?
I don't know. I thought maybe it might be for a porta potty because it's right at the very end, and it's like two blocks. I mean, two like concrete blocks, you know.
Yeah, I don't think it's a porta potty.
No, no, it's not a porta potty. If that's the one down by Grand Bay, that is going to be,
yes.
That's for a bench. And that's in the design that there's that was requested to have an area there to place a bench. And my recall is that that's what that's for.
Okay. And I just got done walking, and I walk it every day, and I did not see them pouring any concrete down by Harbor View. They're still framing up and things like that. Are they running a little behind, or, because it sounded like from what you said at the beginning here that they were pouring, you know, yesterday or the day before, and I didn't see any concrete trucks and did not see any evidence of concrete being poured.
Oh, well, I was out there at noon yesterday, 11 to noon, and they were spraying some concrete with a curing compound. So I didn't see the truck either, but there were people, you know, and they were forming up concrete, but I did see them spraying the white curing compound on stuff. So I don't know. Okay. They may be a day behind. I would definitely count on your eyes being more accurate than mine. I just popped out there for I wanted to look at a slide on Deer Trail Road.
Yeah, and I noticed a lot of. I went and picked up litter yesterday, and I saw in the construction area, and I'm hoping as it finishes up, or maybe even as it goes, that somebody can come through and pick up the little bits of caution tape and string, and there's gloves. And for somebody who walks that all the time, I don't like looking at it. And I try to spend time as a citizen picking up that, because I understand that it does blow, but I saw a lot of construction litter.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
Yeah. That would be the, you know, the responsibility of the contractor. I totally agree.
I'll just butt in here real quick. I was having some technical issues in my office, but I am now at the visitor center. So Granite's representative is now here.
Garrett, I gave an update on the project, but I don't know if you want to, you know, there may be there may be some inaccurate things in that update. So could I bother you to give another quick update on where you're at with things?
Yeah, no, that's not an issue. We're getting really close to nearing the end of this project. The majority of the berm material has already been imported. We probably have another 10,000 tons to bring in on the job, and probably a few weeks of efforts to shape the material that has already been imported. So I would say, excuse me, by early to mid-February, the berm will be shaped and will be completed. And then after that, there's some work to go back through and grade for flat work, as well as prep the berm for planting. But like I said, we're getting dangerously close to being done with this job. If you've taken a trip to the site, you'll see that we've been pouring concrete right there at Harborview. And once that area is complete, there's one more section further down the road towards Cedar Avenue, where we'll have to do the same thing. The limestone path transitions into concrete once again, and that's the last area that will receive the concrete work. But yeah, a lot of our focus right now is just going into finish grading the berm and then getting those paths installed and prepping the ground for the planters to come through and finish the job. One other exciting thing I should mention too is we're at a point in the project now where we no longer have to work both a night and a day shift. So we'll be eliminating the night work and strictly be working in the days. So I'm sure as residents, everyone's glad to hear that there won't be trucks and equipment running all night. So we're getting close.
Garrett, I did have a comment from one of the citizens that they thought that there was a bit of garbage around the site, and I think that's just standard for a construction site, that would be something that Granite would address when they get done with the job. You know, as they kind of start buttoning up from the south and north, that they'll kind of peruse that for stakes and, paint cans or whatever else we've used, gloves.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we don't tolerate littering. So I will make a point to address this with the crew, and we'll make sure that the berm is tidy and, looks how it should.
I just want to say that a lot of times that should be kind of an ongoing, with the amount of wind and stuff that the bay gets and how much we've had recently. When it gets left, it blows around. And I'm not sure if you heard, I did go between Jacob's Landing and Harborview and picked up a fair amount of construction trash just yesterday. So, because I look at it and I don't like the look out of it. And if I'm walking here every day and I don't do it, somebody's got to do it. So it's not a complaint. It's just been a couple of the pieces were too big for me to pick up and carry. And I feel like sometimes people work and they wadded up some of the caution tape and then just left it there. They didn't go back and take care of it.
Okay. So. Yeah, no, I'll make a point of addressing that. So thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How wide will the berm be from Beachway to the south?
From Beachway to the south. I don't have an answer off the top of my head. Are you looking for the width of the berm from the roadway to the water, or I guess I'm not
basically from the roadway to the edge of the berm toward the water?
It varies depending on where you're at. I wish I had my plan set in front of me and I could give you a definitive answer. But I'd say it ranges between 100 to 140 feet.
Okay, I'm looking for the width.
Right.
Okay, how about, second question would be, is the 30-foot right-of-way on the beach side of the road measured from the center of the road?
You know, I can answer the right-of-way question. Jim Karcher with Whatcom County. The right-of-way is monumented out there, and it's based on the monumentation, not the center line of the road. So it probably is close to the center line in some places, but other places it may be 3 feet off.
Okay.
So you always have to be very careful about right-of-way. It's based on monuments in the ground, and then you pull off of those. But I can assure you that we were careful not to be outside of our right-of-way with any construction activities that we're undertaking. Or if we are, we have easements or additional right-of-way to encompass that.
Okay, thank you.
And then I think the other issue that you raised about the width, we'll get back to you on that beachway, but you're thinking about how wide is the berm path?
Right.
Yeah, see, that's what I thought you meant, because
Yeah.
Garrett was mentioning that he was giving you an idea of how much, how wide the structure is all the way to the, to where it's finished, and it's, could be 150 feet wide there. But
Right.
Yeah, I couldn't see it right off the top of my head, but I think we do some transitioning up in the north area where there was a 900-foot section where the residents did not want the berm. So we have a little transition in and out of that area where there is no, a pathway on top of the beach. It transitions to the shoulder of the road to get through that 900 feet and then finishes up. I think you're talking about south of there, because that's up by Cottonwood North.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Could I have chat about that for a minute? I believe that he's talking about the enhanced shoulder when you're walking from Beachway to the south for those 9 homes there. When the road is redone, do you know what the plan for the number of feet for the enhanced shoulder? Right now, it's about 2 feet, in some places 3 feet in others. And then the county has come out and knocked some of the blackberry bushes down so it can be a little wider. So I think all of us that live north of that area that want to walk, we're very interested in knowing how wide that enhanced shoulder for the pathway will be when the road is redone and all.
Yeah, Dora Lee, when we went through that area, the maximum that we can improve that shoulder will be what's established there originally under the shoreline permit. We can't go further onto those private beaches, even within the right of way. So the original thing that we did was mowed the grass back and mowed the blackberries back. And I don't know if I haven't been out there. I actually haven't looked at that. It might be time to do that again, but we'll certainly do that before we come through with the paving. So if you're looking at how far we could go, we can't go any further than where there's gravel there now. And that's a shoreline requirement. There's nothing that we can do really about that. So when the decision was made to design the project as most of your neighbors wanted it, which was not to interfere with those private beaches and have the walkway go back onto the shoulder of the road, we were kind of locked into a smaller profile than what's south of you, which is anywhere from 10 to 12 or plus feet. Most of the walkway is, significantly wider down there. Up in the what we used of the Cottonwood, more of the private walkway area, that's just going to be along the road on what we would be having as an improved shoulder.
Thank you.
And if anyone would like, I'd be happy to walk through that. If you would like to set up, I can go up there and walk through with you and talk about that. That's something that will be worked on in the coming year or two. But I can provide you and your neighbors an idea what the plan is.
That extra space that you did, Roland, a year or so back with the gravel and all was very nice because, you know, you used to have to walk one person behind the other, and it's not very pleasant there to walk. But
Yeah.
that little extra space has made it so that you feel like you're not going to get hit by a mirror on a car or whatever. You can get off a little bit more. So I guess what we need to do is keep the county abreast of when the blackberry bushes start, you know, sticking out to grab you and all that kind of thing. I guess that'll be kind of somebody's job to let the county know that that needs to be pushed back a little bit. I have another question to ask in regards to the king tides. Were you pleased with what you saw in regards to the king tides on the new berm?
How about you? Were you pleased not to have to drive through logs and rock and seaweed?
Yes, we were, and have it around our house. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
real nice.
So when we had the gale storm and the king tide was followed up by the wind, and I was out there, and I went out about 6 o'clock in the morning one time at the height of it, and it was blowing like crazy. The white caps on the bay look significantly larger than 3 years ago when we lost half the road, and there was nothing. I mean, it was, and Granite hadn't even finished that section yet. I mean, the berm was getting beaten up pretty bad, but 3 days later when I went back out, you couldn't even tell it was beaten up really bad because and what I've been saying now for about 35 years is that this works. And there you have it. It works. Everyone was very concerned. And we all called Granite and said, you know, we've got this coming in and, you know, you've got your equipment out there. You know, you've got $500,000 of equipment on the beach. And the water wasn't even near it. I mean, you know, it worked perfectly, because it's all we're doing is putting back what nature normally has there. And so I would love to give all kinds of credit to amazing engineering. And there is all kinds of credit for the wonderful engineering, but at the same time, a natural beach berm works like a natural beach berm. So we're very pleased how it worked. Very pleased at the gradient of the rock that was designed, and essentially it's not really designed. What we look at is the type of rock in nature all throughout the Salish Sea on what holds, and that's the rock that was asked for, and then that's what got delivered, and that's what's working. So. As you'll see it in the future, there'll be sand lenses that come and go, and like I said, it won't take more than 2 storms for people to drive by and say, look at this beautiful natural beach. And once the little stubble of grass, and again, please remind people as you're out there walking, don't walk through the planting, because there's little plants in between those stubble, and so as you're walking through that, you're killing the starts. So please don't do that. We prefer everyone to stay off and out of the construction area entirely, but it's real difficult not to kind of sneak in and enjoy what you all moved there for. But once that grows up, I can't tell you how amazing it will be compared to those of us that remember waves crashing onto the backside of the road, and logs and beer kegs and everything else floating down Birch Bay Drive. I walked around at high tide a couple of days ago to the backside of the restaurant, and the water was all the way up. It had covered the little pier structure they have out there. It was completely on top of it. It was submerged, and even the material that we have done on both ends of the beach, there enabled the wave energy to dissipate so much that it was not crashing up against the restaurant.
Wow.
So even though we weren't able to put a full berm in front of the restaurant, the fact that we have a full berm and beach profile on both sides of it attenuated so much of the energy that they didn't lose their windows this year, which
Yeah.
is a first for years and years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very long-winded, and you never ask me a short question because the answer is yes. Very happy, Dorley.
Good. Well, so are we. I sent you some pictures of the king tide, and I was astonished when I came out and they placed the logs down here at Cottonwood, and there was those pink marker lines, you know, where the logs would go, top and bottom. And so they laid the logs right in that. And by gum, when that high tide came in, it just lapped against the lower part of the logs. Like somebody knew, GPS or whatever, engineers knew where those logs should go. And I was totally amazed. But you and I know, Roland, that Wolf Bauer gets the credit for this. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And his birthday's coming up next month. I'll have to look it up. I think he's he would have been 107, I think, is coming up. But I will say this year is the 5th anniversary of his passing.
Yeah.
So it's time for us to submit to the USGS, the United States Geological Survey, the request to formally have Wolf Bauer Point named by the USGS.
You know, that would be cool if we could do that when we have our celebration in July or June or whenever we do for the finishing of the berm. That would be cool if we could have that done.
I made a couple of calls regarding that, and they basically said who's processing it back in Washington, D.C. Nothing is happening right now, and so give it a couple of months. Otherwise it might get lost in the shuffle. And I thought, okay, well, I'll give it a couple of months because we still have to wait a couple of months before he's officially available to have it named. But we already have the resolution from the council. All we need to do is fill out the form. Perhaps the chamber could sponsor the signature on that, and I'll see if the county executive can, or at least the public works director can provide a letter of support or something. But maybe Dorley, you and I over the next couple of months can work on that, and that would be a wonderful thing to be able to do for the grand opening, as it were. And to remind everyone, we're planning on sometime in July. We want to coordinate with some event that the chamber is putting together, and hopefully we will have enough of the vaccine out that we can have something a little more normal and not have to try to do a virtual ribbon cutting. So that's why we're talking about July, and we'll keep everybody informed as that comes along.
Yeah, we've talked about it at the chamber board meeting just a little bit, and we talked about maybe having a walk the berm day or something at that time where people can just get out and walk it and celebrate and have some food trucks and have it just be a special day for the berm, the finishing of the berm. One last question. I know this is creepy because people out here are having to pay the awful FEMA floodplain insurance. And we just, in our family, we just came upon something to take out a mortgage on your home here in Birch Bay. And if you live, in the FEMA floodplain, the bank won't even talk to you once all the documents start to line up. They won't even talk to you until you address the flood insurance. And it's very costly, though I'm sure there's a ton of people along the bay that are paying that very costly insurance. Now, I know that it's going to be a long haul with FEMA and all, but is there any chance that anything along the bay can be changed in regards to the costly insurance with the new berm? How does that going to fit in, or is it?
It will, but it won't until it's time again. And since the new maps are, even though they're somewhat old now, but the new maps are much newer than many other areas in the Region 10, of the in FEMA, this FEMA area. I in fact, just talked to one of the people in River and Flood a couple of days ago about that. And I said, so what's happening? When are they scheduled? And he said, it's not even on the list. It's so far down the list.
Yeah, yeah.
So the only way to jump ahead is to pay for it yourself. And that is horrifically expensive to do. And they still, it just kind of gets into a pile. It doesn't get reviewed for a long time.
Takes a long time. Yeah.
It takes a very long time. So, you know, I appreciate that problem. I don't also know how much the berm will change with regard to the regulations that you're already under. I mean, it certainly helps. Obviously, we just talked about that. But does it change it significantly to the point where you will be out of one zone into another? I don't know. Bob Battaglio, who worked on those original maps, who also worked on the design of the berm, had stated that there will be some benefit, but he doubted that it would be such a benefit that FEMA would take you out of the V zone or the A zone or whatever it was. I don't recall, but
well, Roland, the last one they did was 2019. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many years they wait to do it again, but when they did it in 2019, people behind us that are like up on Fern, all the way up the hill, were hit by their banks, you know, sending them letters saying, guess what? You need to buy FEMA flood insurance. And they come into their house on Fern, but their house may be sort of down the hill. And so part of the house ended up like it's the new FEMA floodplains halfway up the hill. And they were just stunned. And there was no way getting around it. It's just a solid.
It is. And that's one of the, you know, the challenges that we all face at Public Works and everywhere else is dealing with those regulations. But they're there because you live on an active shoreline, whether there's a berm there or not. This is a very active shoreline, and you know,
most likely those homes are not ever going to be bothered unless we have an earthquake and a tsunami, right? Up on Fern.
I would hope not.
Yeah. Well, it's just one of those things that you live with when you get to live in a beautiful, beautiful place on the shoreline. Yeah. It costs money.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks.
Okay, trying to unmute there. I understand where the ADA access on the berm is down at the south end by Grand Bay, and then again right there by the restaurant. And I've just heard lots of complaints about all the stairs to get up to the berm along Birch Bay Drive in this section. And I've been defending it because I said that it, you know, it's falling within what their plans were and the plans were stated. That all said, it still needs to be a little bit easier access. There's a lot of elderly people who walk with walkers. Is there any way to put some handrails? I know that that's cosmetic, but that would really help a lot of people because they can't walk all the way down to the ramp to get up. That defeats their walk. They get down there and then it's time to turn around and come back because they can't walk any further.
So Cody and I went down to Shady Lane, which is about halfway between the two. And unfortunately, the walkway comes right up close to the road right in there. So what the decision was made that because we're in the middle of this construction, in the middle of the contract, and there's a couple other things going on in the office that we need to take care of, But I did make the commitment to several people out there that we will go back out and look to see what might be able to be done as a standalone project, most likely when the repave is done. And we'll take a look at that. It's going to be rather difficult to get any additional ramps up there just because the berm, the walkway part of the berm is closer to the road right in that area. But we can certainly take a look at whether or not we can put up appropriate guard handrails. That is also in the clear zone. And so putting up railing and that sort of stuff where in the clear zone is a little problematic. But I think Jim and I can talk with Cody and we can take a look and see what we might be able to add to the next phase of the project and see. I've received probably a dozen different requests for that. Everyone's very appreciative, but there's two people with wheelchairs. They have to go all the way down to the restaurant and then come back. And then, and that's a little problematic for just their health in general.
And there's tons of people, I won't say tons, sorry. There's a lot of elderly people, a lot of walkers. There's a lot of people with walkers or sight impairment that live in Jacob's Landing. And and I'm not speaking for them, but I kind of have heard from lots because I walk every single day. So I see lots of people, and that's probably the biggest concern. After they say there's not enough ramps, it's that some handrails. Let's make it safe for our seniors to get up to the berm.
Well, the fact that there were so many people in Jacob's Landing requested that's why we put all that extra effort into the concrete work that's around the restaurant, so that provides a full walkway in and around the restaurant where you're not having to dodge cars like previously. It was not the best situation, and that's why we added that very large ramp and all of that big sidewalk, so that we took care of those folks in Jacob's Landing. A lot down by the lanes, you know, Evergreen and Shady Lane and Pine Lane and all that. That's the area where we're going to see if we can add something in there. There's no real obvious easy fix for that, as I said, because of the way the berm sits. But we'll look at see what we can do as far as adding some handrails. But that's something that, and Jim, you might want to speak to that. I know that's a clear zone, and I don't know if you can put a handrail in the clear zone.
You know, Roland, I couldn't say authoritatively yes or no on that. I'd have to look it up. You know, usually it's a 4-inch diameter or 4-inch dimensional object that's rigid and placed within the clear zone that becomes a hazard. So, you know, handrails, you know, it could be a 2-inch pipe that's threaded through, and does that make it or not? So I don't know that.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a consideration, but.
So I'll make sure it remains on the list, and we'll take a look at that, and feel free to continue to remind me and ask what the status is.
Okay, and I thank you for that information, because that was not information I had about a clear zone and stuff. So I appreciate that information, and I will pass that on.
Okay. One other thing I did want to mention before we got off the phone is on February 3rd, about a month from now, there is going to be an open house regarding the Jackson Road Bridge. Those of you living on the very south end, down south of the Sea Shop on down Jackson Road, the bridge that crosses the creek down there, we will be rebuilding that here in the next year or two. The design effort is moving forward, and Whatcom County Public Works commitment to working with the community on design is this is our next step with regard to that. So there'll be a virtual open house to talk about different alternatives, what would the community like to see, and essentially we've done this previously down in Lake Samish, and there are certain safety factors that have to be put in place, but there's other things that, you know, we don't have an opinion on as far as aesthetics and you know, types of materials and things like that, where there's some variable that we have. We really want the community's opinion on what you'd like to see, as opposed to us just, you know, making it up and building it whatever happens to be there. So that process will start on February 3rd. There'll be a couple of different open houses with that. And then we'll put together the final alternative and then bring it forward before the final design is complete. And I think it's scheduled for not next year, but I think the year after. I believe that's when the actual construction is. We will have information on the webpage, as well as notification for the open house will be done through our Facebook and the get to know section, just similar to the Berm. And we can decide whether or not you want to have any kind of meetings like this while it's under construction. I will let you know. So be forewarned. We're rebuilding a bridge, and so the road will be closed while that is happening. So if you normally or have friends who live up on, I don't remember the name of that community up on the top, the Bayview or what it is, but people live up on Jackson Road. That road will be closed for a period of time while the bridge is being constructed. But again, I think that's 2 years out. Is that right, Jim? Do you recall?
Yeah, at least.
Yeah. So, but the first public outreach will happen February 3rd, and I'll make sure that you all have the opportunity. And those of you that are on Kathy Berg's email list will certainly find out about it, but we'll be doing the same thing for our social media outreach.
And Roland, we'll share it too.
Great, thank
To
you.
the chamber. Yeah.
Excuse me, I got in very late. My name is Frank Albano, and I'm on the board of the Golden Tides cabins there. Right in front of, on the berm there seems to be a stretch where there's not going to be concrete. I'm not sure what's happening there, because there seems to be concrete going up to about CJ's and then starting much further north. But there's an area in between that looks like it's not going to be concreted on that pathway. Could you let me know what's going on there?
That would be right out in front of the Golden Tides and the park property, right?
Correct.
Garrett or Jim, do you know offhand what is it?
So right in front of where again?
Golden Tides and the park area.
Where you have
Right
your
next to
lake
it.
on there, Garrett.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the concrete path actually transitions into limestone in that area. The limestone path, which is still 12 feet wide, similar to what the concrete path is, will run up the road to Harborview, where it then again transitions into concrete.
Okay, so in front of Golden Tides, as I could get this correct for the rest of my people, there'll be just limestone there, no concrete, like the areas north and south of it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Is there any reason, I should ask this because it's going to be asked of me, of my board members, any reason why no concrete and limestone in that area?
I would say added impervious area was a
Okay,
consideration in the design. You know, just putting all that hard structure out there and extra maintenance that, you know, we wanted a structure that we could get by with that had, you know, we can go out and repair that limestone by regrading or adding some limestone to it. But if it's all concrete and it gets pounded on by the wave action or it has some activity on it, you know, so we were limiting the amount of concrete we put on, you know, on that beach area.
Understood. Thank you. You guys have done a great job, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, Lori, can I just say regarding access to the beach, not that we would ignore or just say that, oh, you know, we're not going to look at handrails, but maybe, you know, Birch Bay is a very vibrant community, and maybe there's some kind of access for seniors that can be handled by a volunteer group that, you know, can assist somebody to get up on the beach in the interim until that's resolved. You know, that might be a very compassionate and engaging program that people meet each other and handle issues like access in a safe way. I know it's hard for people when we get older that we like our independence, so we don't want to be relying on anybody, but that might be a nice workaround that can be handled without, you know, in the interim, or if it isn't done according to what someone's desires are for an access right where they live, that may be a good way to work it.
And that was what I've thought, and that's what I've kind of told a few of my neighbors that have that issue, that, you know, just give me a call and I can come up, I can come out and help you up the stairs, or, you know, give you an arm and then carry up your walker or something, you know. So, but that is a good idea. I mean, and I think people, at least in Jacobs, are really watching, because there are a lot of us seniors in here.
Yeah.
And I just feel fortunate that I have the ability to walk and stuff. So.
No, and I meant that most respectfully, that it's not,
Yes.
maybe between the two that we can come to some solution where people feel satisfied with access.
Yeah, you know, and I've pretty much I had one lady get really upset with me that just said, there's not enough, you know, ramps, blah, blah. And I said, well, they're following the law, they're following ADA, and, you know, they're doing, you know, what was in the plans. And so, but I will kind of report back to some of these people, some of the things that I've learned today. So thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Garrett, Roland, Jim, everyone for coming on. We will schedule another one maybe February, the end of February, if that sounds good.
Yeah, I think towards the end of February will be good. I think a lot of the construction will be done at that point. We can talk about how the planting's going and the buttoning up over the last couple of months. So the end of February would be good.
Perfect. Well, thanks everyone for coming on, and thank you, Granite and Roland and Jim, and everyone have a good day.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Liz.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Garrett.